I was only about really 2 years old then. Believe that and I'll tell you another one. In any case, that guitar has 6 normal strings and I think it's 12 drone strings to the left. Now, they make a version of the sitar without the drone strings, but it's only $100 cheaper, and I don't recommend it because it doesn't have the sympathetic drone of the sitar. This guitar was used on a lot of recordings during the 60s. The Box Tops used it on Cry Like a Baby. It was used by B.J. Thomas, Hooked on a Feeling. The Animals used it on the original version of Monterey. You'll hear a lot of them being used throughout the 60s and early 70s. The problem was the original Coral sitars were very poorly made. They have a lot of value, but they're very poorly made. This guitar will cost you about a quarter, of what one of the, maybe a sixth of what one of the original Corals will cost, because it's in the less than $700 range. The next one is a Zemaitis, built by Tony Zemaitis in England. Tony would build some pretty interesting guitars. They were art guitars. Weren't very playable, and the quality of them was weak, to say to compliment them, to say the quality was weak. I encountered such things as truss rods being in backwards, seams cracking, necks falling apart literally in your hands. Very poor quality, but he achieved a certain notoriety because he was able to get them in the hands of some famous rock stars. Ron Wood uses these guitars, and the guitar player in the Pretenders, James Honeyman Scott, was also a famous Zemaitis player. And these guitars sell as high as $20,000 to $30,000, which is almost a crime, but that's what they sell for. We'd build copies of these guitars, exact duplicates. You can't even tell them apart. The next guitar is the Guild Brian May. Now, over the years, Brian has lent his name to several different companies to make this guitar. Currently, Burns is building this guitar, but they're building it in Korea, and it's lesser quality. It's worth what it sells for, which isn't very much, but the Guild guitar here is very rare, hard to find, and I've heard them sell as high as $4,000 and $5,000. This one's not actually for sale, although I may entertain offers. The next guitar is the Robert Conti 8-string made by B.C. Rich. And if you haven't heard of Robert Conti, he is one of the most amazing jazz guitar players that I've ever heard, and he plays with an 8-string guitar. That particular model right there is the Robert Conti 8-string. B.C. Rich made less than 10 of those during their production. The next guitar, the purple one, is a Neal Schon, which was originally built by Jackson. Jackson manufactured these for Neal way back in the mid-'80s. Neal took more orders than Jackson could produce, and they only actually produced less than 150 of them. And Neal had orders for, I've heard as many as thousands. I've heard all kinds of stories about what he had. He was quite upset that Jackson couldn't deliver, and there was a lawsuit. And when Fender sold out, when Fender purchased Jackson, I was lucky enough to be there, and I purchased all the Schon body blanks, the original Schon body blanks. So I have in stock over 100 of these guitars, in all varying shapes of condition. Finished, unfinished, just plain body blanks. I have all the parts available for them, and I have originals also that were actually sold and delivered. This is the Rick Turner Lindsey Buckingham Model 1. What makes this guitar a little bit different than most of them is that Lindsey personally owned this guitar for 8 years. This is the guitar that he appeared in many photographs with. He owns 6 of them, and he's very rough on his guitars. He's extremely rough on them. I mean, if you got a hold of a guitar that Lindsay had played, it would be in pretty rough shape. Poor Rick is always rebuilding his guitars, constantly rebuilding his guitars, and Lindsay needs anywhere between 6 and 8 pieces just to keep running all the time. This one was what he called his photo op model. He kept it nice and kept it only for, he used it on some recordings, used it in some situations, but it was kept beautiful so that whenever he was in a photo situation and he wanted to hold a guitar, this is the one he used. This guitar appeared on the cover of Guitar Player magazine along with Lindsay. It appeared in many different locations. Next guitar doesn't really need much of an explanation. That's one of the famous original Frankenstrats. Over the years, we built upwards of 1,500 of those. A few years ago, Eddie decided that he was going to lock up the trademark on the colors, and he has prevented all the companies now from building these, except for, of course, for Charvel, who just released them. This particular guitar is not for sale. We keep it in the store just so people can see it. It's one of the old original Kramers that belonged to him. We built a lot of copies of them also. The next guitar is the James Trussart guitar. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top uses these, and they're a very interesting guitar, and they're one of the few all metal guitars that we carry. Does a Strat version and a Tele version. The next 2 guitars are ones that myself and John Bolin have built for Billy Gibbons. And Dusty Hill. And I'm sure you may or may not have seen them in some of their videos, seen them live. Those guitars, I think, are bigger than they are. They look like their stage show is so big, they look so small up there. And when they hold those guitars, they even look even smaller, if it's hard to imagine. Those are built completely hand-built from start to finish. They sell in pairs. We do have a broken pair at this time where we have a single guitar available, but normally they're only sold in pairs. The first guitar you see here in this segment is the Rand, built by a guy named Rand Havner back in Pennsylvania back in the mid-'80s. From what I gather, he built about 80 guitars, not quite 80, 77 was the number I heard officially, before he went out of business. I've always dealt in these. Over the years, I've probably bought and sold 15 of them, which probably makes me the world's largest Rand dealer. In any case, the neck is Pau-Ferro. It has 27 frets. It's similar to a Hamer Californian, except that it is a neck-through-body guitar. Very 80s, very rock and roll, real Floyd on there. Just an exceptional 80s style guitar, probably one of the best guitars that was offered in the 80s. The next guitar you see is a Gene Baker guitar. The reason I say Gene Baker is because this was made in Gene Baker's shop in upstate California. He went bankrupt back in 2003. From what I understood, he left owing a lot of people a lot of money. In any case, he made some special models for me during the time that he was in process of building guitars. This is one of them. It's one of his better pieces, actually.